Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Game Sharks, my mom's absolute favorite video game show. I am your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me, as always, a lovely panel of guests here, but my co-host, Mr. Corey Lang. Corey, how are you doing today, sir?
So it's your mom's favorite video. Does your mom watch a lot of video game shows?
She watches at least
one. This is the only one. Okay.
Well, yeah, well, she's biased. You know,
your mom's great, so there's that.
She is great, yeah. But you're doing well?
Doing well, thanks.
Good.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for having us.
And joining us once again, special guest Anthony Bettine. Anthony, how are you?
I'm good. My mom hates this show. She always tells me how bad it is. So.
Oh, man.
It's like, come on.
Your number one critic.
Yeah, she's like, you talked about
brutal.
Horizon last time and not Elden Ring? Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous.
Does she send you, like, show notes?
Yeah.
Like, you did this wrong, do this better.
A long list.
Yeah, cut your hair.
Brutal.
You forgot to brush your teeth.
Shave the mustache.
Yeah.
Like, thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, yeah, I watched.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't like it.
Thank God for the moms.
Thank goodness for
my
the
mom
moms.
doesn't watch any of my stuff. She clicks like on all my Facebook posts.
Oh, that's nice.
On my conspiracy, she's not actually watching the stuff.
That's right.
You confront her, when push comes to shove, she doesn't know. So,
This is great. This has just turned into like our mom's like dirty laundry.
Yeah,
like we're just like, talking about them. Except mom sharks.
Mom
Yeah, exactly.
sharks. Oh man.
But again, I told my mom, like, Mom, if you're watching, you have to watch because
Yeah.
we're going to talk about you at the beginning of the show. And she's like, what are you going to talk about? I was
Yeah.
like, it's going to be like one line. So,
Right.
But now it's turned into a whole thing.
Shout out to mom.
Shout out to Mom. Yeah. But anybody who might be new around these parts, we like to talk about video games here all the time, as much as we can. And this week, or this episode, I should say, we're going to start off talking about a smaller title. They said it was developed by one guy, but actually it was a small team. We're going to start off talking about the game Tunic that came out on Xbox Game Pass and a bunch of other things recently. And I wanted to bring this to the Sharks table because I thought this is something, Anthony, we talked about, you played beforehand. And Corey, I was like, this is a game that you might like because you kind of like retro-style games. And this definitely feels retro-style. You know, feels very old school, like kind of Zelda isometric, wouldn't you say, Anthony?
Yeah.
Link to the Past kind of vibe.
Yes. Yeah, totally. That's a really good comparison. And I haven't found a button yet to like move the camera, so I don't think that exists because there's a lot of like you go behind a wall and there's like just your shadow, and you're like, I can't see what's over here. Then they'll be like, oh no. But he plays a little fox, and then you get all these little items to help you along your way, and the game gives you next to no hand-holding. It just kind of is like, go, do a thing, and you get like these little items that you pick up that will give you like an actual instruction booklet. That's very adorable. I don't know how much of that you've gotten. A couple things.
It's like this really cool mechanic where you're like finding the game manual as you go.
Yeah.
And the art is like so evocative of like those like 90s like Nintendo 64, Game Boy instruction manuals. But the neat thing about it, or like one of the hooks of the game, is that it's all in a language you don't understand.
Yep.
Which I'm curious if that's like an actual, like if you could actually break the code and translate it.
Yeah.
But so you'll get these pages and it'll just be nonsense, and then like 20 minutes later in the game, you'll like figure out what it's telling you, and you'll be like, oh, now I know how to use this item, or like now I know where to go for this.
Yeah. There's so much of that where you'll like go and hit an object and it'll put up like the fake stuff and say yes or no, and you're like, yes. I don't know what I just agreed to, but I wanted to progress something. But I found that the game, like before you get like a sword eventually. I don't know if we've got to that point yet.
You start with a stick or something.
You get like a stick. Yeah. And it is kind of difficult. This game is kind of brutal. It looks really cutesy and like anybody can play it and anybody can, but it demands that you are intelligent about what you're doing because it is still like an action game to a certain degree. There's dodge rolls, there's magic later on, but there's a lot of like considerations where you have a stamina bar, a shield, and all that stuff. So it is reminiscent slightly of kind of Souls-like types of games, I would think. I don't know if you felt that way too.
Definitely. I don't think it's like as difficult as those Souls games, and the combat is a little like, it's a little floatier.
Very floaty. Yeah, which is a little frustrating sometimes.
Yeah. Especially in like because the boss fights are pretty brutal.
I'm
really tough. I've done a couple of them, and they're tough. Like they'll take you.
Oh my gosh.
Tries.
And it's so angering because like I know the moves they're gonna do, and yet I still somehow do not manage to get out of the way of like this. They're like telegraphing a big attack, and I'm like, why didn't I dodge that? I hit the button. I'm like, move, my little foxy man. But I love the fox. I don't know his name. I'll call him Tunic. We call him Tunic. And he, I don't know, like there is a story, but it is very like you're discovering it. So again, it's very old-fashioned in that sense. But I thought, Corey, this would be a game that might interest you.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking I haven't played it because I grew up playing those, overhead Zelda games, and I love the Dark Souls franchise. I canceled my Game Pass subscription just because of Elden Ring, and I was like, well, I'm going to be playing this for at least 2 to 3 months, if not all year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just, can the Game Pass subscription for a little bit. But yeah, so my question is, you mentioned like the difficulty with the bosses. Is this game presented in a linear fashion where it's a straight path, or can you go out and grind for, like, is there a skill tree? Are you upgrading hearts like you would in a Zelda? How does that work? How do you overcome challenges in that regard?
It's a good question. From my experience, maybe Anthony's here might be different, but it seems pretty open for the most part if you're skilled enough to get past certain sections, or there'll be things where it's like clearly they block you off until an item that you may or may not have, so you can get past a certain point. But it seems like they have, like, instead of hearts, you do have a health meter, but then you get more and more of these like potions that are consumable that you get when you go at a rest area.
So that's like the Dark Souls hook.
Exactly,
So
and
it's
then
like
the monsters all come back.
Got
like
it.
that type of thing.
Okay.
Well, there is a currency too.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And and like one of the cool things about the game, or I guess cool, this might be frustrating to some people, I thought it was very cool, is like even that like leveling up mechanic is hidden behind, like you don't know how to do it until you collect the correct manual page. Or you could, if you just stumble across how to do it earlier in the game.
Okay.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of confused whether it was like linear or open, because you can definitely like go anywhere, you can explore anywhere, but there is like like you said, like there are gated parts where like, okay, I don't have this item yet, I can't do this yet. And so I'm wondering if there are like multiple paths to get to the ending, or if you are like gated on that linear path. I'm also, I don't know if you have any sense of how long the game is.
I looked it up, and I believe it's like 12 hours or 15 hours, which I thought was way longer than I originally anticipated.
Yeah.
That's
Especially
exciting
when
to hear.
we thought it was going to be like one person making it. I was like, okay, we'll see. With like Stardew Valley, that's one thing, but
Right.
this. But like I said, he's got like a team, so I
Right.
can see why it's a little bit longer. But for completionists, I never know what these types of things, because I'll say 12 and it'll be like, actually it's 25.
Yeah.
You did every little thing, and you're like, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
mean to. But going back to the items, one thing that I found really interesting is that you have these consumables like bombs and things, or like these mana potions that don't come back. But there are other items that you pick up that like give your stats an upgrade, and you just have them in your item pouch, and they don't tell you that they give you that until you get the manual page that says like, oh, you collected another fang, your attack has gone up. And you're like, oh, okay. And they recommend for certain fights that you are at a certain threshold for damage and defense. So some areas I've gotten to, maybe I shouldn't have gotten to, where things are one-hitting me, or like one-shotting me.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, oh, I should come back later.
Right.
This is really bad.
Yeah. Like Elden Ring. I went way out to the
Exactly.
northwestern corner, and I'm, like, oh, I
Problematic.
should not be here.
You're like,
Yeah.
I'll come back later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in both cases, unlike some games, it's not like a red skull is above the character's head where you're like, oh, I definitely can't fight you. It's like, they're like, hey, you can if you want. Like, we'll see how it
Right.
goes. Like,
Yeah, you don't find out until that sword comes down.
Exactly, yeah,
Like,
you're like,
your
this is
whole-
rough.
I
Yeah.
love that. I personally love that sense of
Sure.
danger. Like, oh, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And then you just magically tackle something you weren't supposed to. I love that personally.
Yeah.
Cool. This has me really excited to play this.
Yeah, it's interesting, and now it's starting to flesh out more because you get like a shield later on, and then you get some magic, which I thought was really necessary, because I was kind of like, it's kind of like dodge rolling, just using the sword is fine, but I wanted to use like some other things, and I have like an ice cone thing. I don't know if you've got that one,
Yep.
like the fire wand thing.
Both of those,
Yeah, and I don't know if you've gotten any more than that.
No,
right?
that's where I've gotten. So.
Yeah, and it seems like it adds a little bit more to the combat. And some of these like things you fight, you want to fight them at a distance, or like they come at you in a group. They're relentless. They will track you down and they will beat you to death. And like there's nothing stopping them. But you find out little quirks, like there's these big kind of crocodile guys that are really, really difficult to deal with. But then you like will read something in the manual like, yeah, they have range, but they're really slow to turn. So if you kind of just move over to the side when you're fighting them, they're not that much of a problem. So that's one of the cool.
Is there ranged attacks in this too? Do you get like a bow and arrow? Or is it mainly just the sword so far? And
I haven't gotten one yet. I've gotten
Okay.
like the fire wand. You can kind of shoot like a little.
Oh, there's
laser.
a fire wand.
Yeah.
It's like a laser kind of thing, or
This
like a
is
quick.
totally a Zelda game.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Yeah.
Literally
Very much.
called Tunic. Do you get different colored tunics? I just
No, that-
no.
Not so far.
Okay.
No, yeah.
There's
That's
no
the
red
thing about this
tunic?
game is I'm like, I don't. Maybe you do. Like,
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
would surprise me.
They have
Okay.
a kangaroo though that like can punch, and there's like a blue bear. No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say,
there's a
wait,
triceratops
what? Come
thing.
on.
No, I'm kidding.
It's funny. I don't know. So first off, the game looks incredible.
Oh, it's
got this
beautiful.
really cutesy, kind of almost like tilt shifty art style with
It's
the
charming.
isometric. Very
Okay.
charming.
So charming.
Very cutesy, but also the sound design is awesome. The
Okay.
music is awesome.
Yeah.
And even the music, like you go into a well at one point,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe I can't remember if it was in the well or the tomb, and like the motif is like straight out of Zelda, like that little twinkly, like
sure.
dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Like the harp.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
kick in the harp.
Yes,
Okay,
I was
all
like,
right.
oh, that's the Zelda tune.
Oh,
Great. Now
So
I'm
it's-
getting this later tonight.
Sure, yeah. Well, and there are like places you're talking about these kind of, I don't know if they're optional necessarily, but there's like one that's like called like the Dark Tomb, and you can't go, like you can go in there, but later on you get a lantern, and then you can actually see what's in there, what you're fighting. So it's little things like that where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like having a torch in
Sure.
another game, where it's like, yeah, you need this thing, it'll help you out a lot.
Okay.
You know, but again, you get like this currency that you can use to buy other objects or items, and some of those will be like getting another heart container, as it were, or another one of those potions, I should say, that you can use to refill a little bit of your health, which are Estus flasks,
Yeah.
basically.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like clearly inspired by multiple things.
Right.
But I'm so like, you make a good point about the combat though, where it's like just a little floaty, and maybe that changes. Maybe you get other weapons later on that don't make it as weird. But sometimes I'm like, like I didn't mean to die here. But when you die, you leave like a little fox ghost.
Okay.
And you lose like I think it's like 20 of your
Something like
like,
that,
or maybe
yeah.
it's like a fraction of
Okay.
your currency, and you just go back and pick it up. It's not like it's as devastating as losing like all your souls or something in like a Dark Souls game. You're like, oh my gosh.
One of the criticisms I've heard was the frustration coming from the puzzle sequences. I think that rubbed a lot of people wrong. Maybe that's later game content. Have you guys encountered any really like off-putting puzzle sequences that just kind of didn't clash well with the rest of the game?
I haven't really. There's been a couple of puzzles. But
Okay.
everything I've encountered has been pretty like light these two lanterns and then
Yeah.
that'll let
Okay.
you progress. I have heard that too, so I'm wondering if
Yeah,
that's a later game
later
thing.
game.
I don't know how far you are, Court or Jimmy.
Yeah.
But there's like an opening, an intro area where you have to accomplish a couple things, and then it kind of opens up to a larger like. You figure out like, oh, this is what the game is about now.
Got it.
So maybe some of that puzzle stuff comes after that
Yeah,
point.
I've heard there's a late game difficulty spike that like. So I heard some statistics of people finishing this game,
Oh, really?
and it wasn't great. So that's concerning. But again, you guys are playing in Game Pass, right? So you didn't fork up the $30 to play.
Sure,
So
yeah.
So the stakes are fairly low with the Game Pass.
But it's good to know the price
integration.
point that you
Yeah.
brought up there, $30.
$30, right?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about just buying the game.
Sure.
Because it's really just the only thing that I'm interested in on Game Pass at the moment, but there's always something more coming.
You could
So
beat it
it's-
in 3 months, right?
Yeah, right.
That's
yeah.
how that works.
So
Is that the easy math? No,
Yeah.
quick math.
was it $14.99 a month? Is that what
is that
Game
what it
Pass
is?
is right
Oh, then
now?
2 months.
15, yeah, 2 months. So.
You got it.
Yeah,
You get it.
I'll try it out.
You get it.
So this sounds great though. I'm excited to play it.
Yeah, one of my frustrations, Anthony, I don't know if you felt this too, but sometimes because there's this one kind of specific angle, or it does change sometimes, some of the levels, there are little paths that, not for necessarily treasure, but just to like get to a new area or to do something, are so tucked away or hidden that they'll have like a little light source on it, and you're like, I've been looking around for this thing for so long, and then you like stumble across it and you're like, I would never, if I could just move my camera just a little bit. But I get it's very intentional. Did you have any of those problems?
Yeah, I mean, like, not to compare it to FromSoft games again, but it's definitely one of those games where like you get into a room and you like run around all the corners.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
okay, can I get in here? Can I go through there? There's a lot of like little secret stuff to discover.
Oh, yeah. Tons.
I think the thing that I've been more frustrated with is I feel like a lot of those secrets aren't necessarily worth the effort. Like,
Yeah.
It's just like you open a chest and you get a little bit more of the currency.
Exactly.
And maybe you found something, but like besides leveling up, and there's one shop that I've encountered,
Yep.
there's not like a lot to do with that currency.
No,
So
yeah.
it doesn't feel super rewarding when you open one of those chests. Sometimes you'll get like an extra item or
Sure.
like the upgrade items like you mentioned. But for the most part, a lot of those secrets are just like, here's more currency.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you pick up like a little bit more of the instruction booklet for something that you don't have to deal with yet, and it'll be like, oh, thank you for telling me about this enemy that I haven't encountered yet. And I'm like, I'll come back here later. Like I'll be like,
Yeah.
hold on a second, like flip through the instruction book, which is kind of interesting. Side note about the instruction booklet, how you have to like open it and treat it like an actual instruction booklet.
Yeah.
You
That's
have to
cool.
go through
You,
the
like, go
pages.
through.
Like,
That's
you can't
really
just go,
cool.
the little parts.
And another really cool thing about the instruction booklet is it's like it's like you went into a game store and bought a used copy of Tunic, and somebody wrote in the margins and like noted like there's one area, like I won't spoil where it is, but you get into this area and you can find a page that has like the map for the area, and there will be like, here's a treasure chest, like here's our traps to look out for, which is really really
Yeah,
cool.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, that little detail. Also, like when you put up your guard with your shield, your Tunic or whatever his name is, his little tail starts to wag a bunch. So like, there's tons of little things where you're like, oh, it's adorable.
Yeah.
You're like,
part of me, sorry, Jimmy.
No, it's fine.
Part of me wants to hold off to see if, like, are you guys familiar with like limited run games?
Oh yeah.
Limited Run Games, a company that will go back and reproduce physical versions of old games. Like they'll literally reproduce NES cartridges and stuff and pack them in these nice collect. This seems to me like it's begging for a physical,
totally.
like a book that's compiled of all of those. Or would that ruin the experience of finding those digital?
You'd almost have to like play the game first and,
Got
then
it.
buy that physical copy if you're like
Okay.
a collector. Because I think if you had all that information right off the bat, I think it would
see.
take some of the mystery, or it definitely would take away some of the mystery of the game.
Okay.
you'd have to show restraint.
Yeah.
Because this is a digital-only game, I'd assume this is, since it's a straight-up indie
believe
game.
so,
There's no
yeah.
physical.
Yeah.
I have a Series S anyway, so I have no disc slot. So I have no choice.
Yeah.
I have to download this game.
And I think it's only, I'm playing it on PC. I think
nice.
it's only on Xbox and PC right now.
Is that the only
Yes.
two right now?
I believe
Correct.
so.
That's
Which,
correct.
like, not to be this guy, but like this game would be so good on the Switch.
I know. I was just thinking that. Yeah, I was like, this is a perfect.
You're
Switch
not
game.
that guy. We're all that guy.
Yeah, no. I even
know.
see it, even though I have a Switch and I don't use it that often, but I even see games like this. I'm like, this would be perfect for Switch.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
for the Switch. Like,
Is it like a year? We should have done our homework. I'm assuming it's like a year exclusive. Is it like a
great question.
straight up exclusive? Like
I don't
did
know.
Micro? Okay.
I don't
That's a good
think so.
question.
Yeah, because I think this is going to come down.
Because I heard like Bug Snacks is now coming to Switch and Xbox.
Yeah, man.
So that's
Yep.
interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, they-
Story for another day, but
I don't
never
know why-
played Bug Snacks.
Yeah, well, that was a game of the year.
I know,
Yeah,
I know. I
yeah.
think about you when I saw it. So, and there's like new DLC coming.
They're doing
Sorry,
a big,
Jimmy.
Oh, no, it's
a
fine.
totally like free update. And
Yeah.
it's like a whole new island and story and stuff. So I'm very excited for that.
Cool.
Is that one coming to Game Pass?
I don't know.
I
That's
know
a
it's
good
coming to
question.
Xbox. So I was like, this would be another Game Pass game. I'm like, oh,
Really good
my
Game
gosh,
Pass game.
perfect. Like,
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like, please.
Game
Bug
Pass
Snacks.
is just the gift that keeps on giving. And I know I canceled my subscription. I will go back to it, but like, I have the PlayStation Plus subscription. Not to go off on a tangent, but
Yeah.
like I was looking at the free games. It's like, come on, guys.
Sure.
And I know they're launching their new subscription, so hopefully
Sure.
things will get better. But like this month's offering was like SpongeBob SquarePants,
Yeah, I saw
Bikini
that.
Bottom. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What are you? And then,
Yeah.
anyways, don't get me started.
Well, it's kind of like any of these movie or TV streaming things where if you do hold off for a while and then go back, there's a good chance that a lot of that has built up and then you can have like a plethora of really cool things to play.
Right.
Especially with Xbox with the day one stuff that PlayStation isn't going to do. Like
Right.
God of War is not coming, like Ragnarok. It won't be day one on their new
Right.
subscription service.
Right.
But whereas Microsoft would be like, yes, we're bringing that immediately on it.
Right.
So you can come back.
Yeah.
And it'll be great.
Yeah.
You'll have so much to play.
Right.
So much to play.
Can't wait.
Yeah. But so Tunic, have we sold you enough?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was sold. I mean, this game was announced like 4 or 5
It's a
years
while
ago.
ago. Yes,
And it's
yes.
filling that 2D top-down Zelda void because we really haven't had a great that style of Zelda game since probably A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, you might be right.
So
Yeah, they did that. Didn't they do like a Link to the Past remake for Switch?
Yes.
I didn't play it, but
yeah, it was
Awakening?
Link's
Or
Awakening.
Yeah, Link's Awakening. Right. Yeah.
It was
kind
good.
of claymation-y. Looks
Claymation-y.
kind of like this. I mean, not this is not claymation, but kind of that sweet, soft,
Yeah.
charming
Yeah.
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, that launched in 2019 with the Switch Lite, so I remember picking those both up, and it was great, but I remember the controversy at the time with that game. It was very unpolished. Like Nintendo Rush said it was, which is very unlike Nintendo.
Very unlike them.
Big frame rate dips and stuff, and
wow.
just not a great experience.
Okay.
But good.
Okay.
So anyways, I'm excited to play Tunic.
Yeah.
Since we haven't had one of these in quite a while.
That's totally true. Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful that you will because I feel like this would be something you would at least appreciate just jumping in for like a couple hours. And
Totally.
Okay, this is fun. You know, reminds me of old school types of games.
Yep.
And again, very influenced by Zelda and From Software and things like that. So if you like either of those things, this might
Yeah.
be a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup situation for you. We are not sponsored. I would love to be. If you want to send us some Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, guys, that'd be
Please
great.
do.
We'll take as many as you can bring in here. But yeah, so Tunic was the kind of one of the big things I wanted to talk about. But Corey,
Sure.
I want to talk to you about a little game that has blown up.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even say little, but that would be Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, so it's been a long time since we've had a big, Lego game like this. And so it's all 9 movies, the Skywalker movies.
Yeah.
So excluding Rogue One and some of those,
Solo.
Solo and some of those offshoot Star Wars films. But so they've changed things up quite a bit. It's now from a more full 3D camera controlled camera aspect, so opposed to the kind of zoomed out diorama style of the older Lego games. For better or worse, I think a lot of people love that style of Lego game, myself included,
Yeah.
but I think this is a massive improvement
Yeah.
on many levels. But so playing on PS5, the thing that struck me right off the bat was how gorgeous this game is.
Sure.
I mean, I think they nailed that kind of shiny plastic look of the Lego figures and the environments and stuff. You can start with either A New Hope or you can start with Episode 1, Phantom Menace, or either Episode 4, which makes sense, because Episode 1 is obviously kind of the start of the Star Wars saga.
Yeah.
But Episode 4 was the first movie that came out in the 70s. So
Sure.
you have an option. You can choose one or the other. I dabbled in a little bit of each. Okay. So when you start with New Hope, obviously you start as Princess Leia. It's very much a third-person cover shooter scenario, Gears of War style. You're literally snapping to.
Oh, she's got a chainsaw.
Yeah, she's got. Yeah, that's
Cool,
right.
dude.
Marcus Phoenix steps
I forgot
in
about
it.
that. This
yeah.
is
Blood
yeah.
exploding out
Yeah.
of the
Oh my
minifigures.
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. So Episode 4, New Hope, you're switching between Leia, R2-D2,
Cool.
C-3PO, kind of in that opening sequence. Then Vader kind of kicks in, and
Is 3PO really slow? Does he move really slowly?
there is a sprint button, and I think that does make him move faster.
Amazing.
Yeah, and the human whatever characters will sprint as well.
Sure.
So there is a way to move quicker through the environments.
Yeah.
And then I switched over to Episode 1, Phantom Menace, because I wanted to play as Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and try
yeah.
out the lightsaber stuff. Eventually you will get to some lightsaber stuff with Episode 4, obviously, when Luke comes in and you can switch between Obi-Wan and Luke, the elder Obi-Wan.
Yes.
This is a big game.
Yeah.
It's right out the gate. It was shocking. I mean, you have, I'm not going to say open world environments, but I'm going to say like giant open level environments. Does that
Yes.
make sense? It's
Yeah.
still very much a linear game. But you have skill trees now. So there's like side quests with NPCs. So you can literally bypass the main quest. One thing that I think they've balanced really well with this game is the balance between offering gameplay for children or younger audience, I should
Sure.
say, and adults.
Cool.
So it kind of does the BioShock thing where you can press a button and it always shows you a path to the main quest.
Sure.
So it's very accessible. You always know where the main story is going to go, but it also doesn't kind of hit you over the head with that. It allows the game to breathe so you can go explore these open, like Tatooine, for example. Like there's all these little NPCs, and it's fully voice acted now.
Yeah.
So there's no like, like the murmurings of the old games. I'll kind of pause for a second. Do you have a history, Anthony, with the old Lego games?
Yeah, I played like the first couple Lego Star Wars games for sure. Played Lego Indiana Jones. I think the last one I seriously played was probably Lego Batman.
Okay.
I moved away from the series. This is totally a personal thing, but I liked in the early games how everything was made of Legos, and then as they went on, they started
Sure.
making like the environments more
Yeah.
realistic,
Yep.
and like that aesthetic didn't vibe with me.
Sure.
I have been really curious about this one though.
That's a good
I've been wanting
point.
to get my hands on it.
I know that was something that bothered a lot of fans. I don't know if that bothered you or Jimmy. It certainly didn't bother me. I think you'll be happy to know that there's a good mix of that going on.
Okay.
Like you look around the environment, okay, that's clearly made out of Legos. Okay, the vistas in the distance. Okay, clearly that's a mix of kind of the game engine mixed with some beautiful Vista Lego stuff.
Sure.
So I think they did a good job of mixing that.
Sure.
Where are you at with Lego games?
So I played a good smattering of them in the past, and I think one of my biggest frustrations was sometimes that camera would pull out so far, and a lot of it was like smash everything you can find so you can build a thing, because like the little Legos would be like jumping on the ground, and I'd be like, what else do I need to smash? Because I need to make this thing to progress.
Right.
It sounds like the camera has gotten better, and I remember thinking they were fun games, and I enjoyed them, but they didn't have depth.
Yep.
That I was seeking
Yep.
as time went on for me personally.
Right.
But I found them to be so charming. And there was one of the Star Wars ones that I played a ton of, and I remember being able to mix and match, and I don't know if you can do that in this one, but it was like I had Lando's body, but with like a Stormtrooper helmet.
Oh,
and
sure.
stuff like that. So like I had Lando's like move set, but I also could get through Stormtrooper doors.
Sure.
Which I thought was really fun, and I was like, oh, I kind of missed that, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in this one.
I couldn't answer that.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
not far enough to know.
Sure.
I know there's a lot of deep menu systems going on here.
Sure.
So this is clearly a big game with the skill trees. You can select characters. There's a big character selection screen and all that.
Every character.
Yeah, it's totally going for that
Yeah.
whole thing. One thing I will say is the combat feels really good. I don't think it's hitting quite the levels of like Force Unleashed and Jedi Fallen Order.
Sure.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You're not going to expect things like that. The shooting feels still a little kiddie, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
But it feels good. Like the force powers feel really precise and good. There's an impact to it that
Cool.
feels really good with the
Nice.
lightsabers and stuff. And I really can't stress enough how good this game really looks. Like like top 5 best looking PS5 games.
Wow,
I think
really?
I've seen
Wow.
so
Whoa.
far. Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. We tried the co-op. I bought a second PS5 controller because, strangely enough, I had a trigger fail on one of my DualShock 5s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, story for another day.
That'll
but
trigger you.
yeah, yeah. Not to go off on a tangent on the controllers, but so my PlayStation 5 is in a media closet.
Okay.
Through a wall, and I'm sitting probably 25 feet back on a couch. I was having like severe Bluetooth issues with my launch PS5 controller. Like I'd be playing Elden Ring, like severe joystick drift. I'd be heading in another direction, which is not what you want when you're playing a
No,
boss
definitely
in Elden
certainly
Ring.
not.
Yeah.
And I know you listen to a little bit of the Bombcast, or you used to. Jeff Gersman mentioned it with Gran Turismo 7 and how he was getting drift with the launch DualShock 5 controllers. And apparently the new colored ones, have you seen that? Like they put out like a purple one and a blue one.
Okay.
They're supposed to have a lot better technology.
Okay.
So far that seems true. My new controller seems a lot better.
Okay.
So
Which
I bought
color did you get?
I went with blue. I went to Best Buy and they had hot pink or blue. So I was like, hot pink's it's nice.
Yeah.
Not hating on the hot pink.
No, you're more a blue guy.
Yeah, I went with blue. So I went into a Best Buy. That's the first time I've been into a Best Buy in a long time. So I bought a physical copy of Lego Star Wars and a second controller so my wife and I could play co-op.
Cool.
And the co-op seems great. It doesn't do the limited split screen thing where they keep you in a specific area. You could literally go off and do your own adventure.
Okay.
And it'll stay in a split screen mode within that, zone.
Is it horizontal or vertical split?
It's a vertical split.
Okay.
You can maybe change that in the settings.
Okay.
I'm sure you probably can.
Interesting. Yeah.
So just to recap, they changed the camera perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Combat feels really good. All 9 movies that are there, fully voice acted. They look beautiful.
Yeah.
That's probably all I have to say for now.
Sure.
On Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga.
I've heard some interesting things about. So you brought up Tatooine for a second,
Yep.
and they talk about that I believe in 4. You said you were kind of exploring it a little bit, right?
Yep.
With A New Hope.
Yep.
But later on, when you finally unlock Return of the Jedi, it might be a small spoiler, but you can you see Jabba's palace before, but you can't go there. And then when you get to that point, they unlock Jabba's palace.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like some of those worlds that you've gone to will
Yep.
unlock, more and more as you potentially go on in this series, depending on the planet, right?
Yeah, and obviously there's like side quests too that'll unlock different areas, and you can return to events. Like episode 1, you literally start out by flying a ship, and you can literally fly
Which I've seen that
and
too.
land
Yeah.
on different areas. So it's a big game.
Well, there's like dogfighting and stuff too. It seems like there's like a lot more to it than just like blasters and lightsabers,
Right.
Which is a lot in and of itself, but you
Right.
know, adding that like spaceship battle and stuff like
Right.
It's big. It's a big
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, and the humor's still there. It's still super funny.
I saw
the writers there. Great.
Well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but there's something coming up in episode 3 for you. I saw one little clip of,
Yeah.
and they just used the same dialogue from the movie, and
Yeah.
but they took it visually in a very different direction.
Yeah.
I was like looking, I'm like, what are they? Oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
hilarious. It's super funny. It's
Yeah.
super quaint.
Yeah.
And they also had such a slapstick or like we had to convey this without voices for so long. So I think that's why that humor is still so good because for so long they're like we have to portray this whole thing with like little pictures, like someone to bring up like a picture and be like I'm your dad.
Yeah.
Luke, you know. Now you can just say it. But I love that about these games. Like,
Yeah.
The humor, man. That's good to hear.
Yeah, so the two big things that surprised me was just how big the game is, and,
Yeah.
and then how beautiful they just the visual style. I mean, it's that same Lego charm, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you going to have a separate save file from the missus then? Because she doesn't want to play co-op. She wants the whole screen.
Yeah, well, she has her own separate PlayStation account and stuff, so she
she's
just
kidding.
logs me out and logs herself in.
Gotcha,
and-
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I think she platinumed almost all of the previous Lego games.
Wow.
Like I know she did the Harry Potter. Yeah,
That's
she's
incredible.
pretty hardcore.
Those
so-
games are so big.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
game's like the biggest one.
right. So she's determined. So
Wow, she's like, I'm unlocking everybody.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything.
which makes me happy though. I feel like I get my money's worth.
Oh,
when-
totally,
When,
yeah.
when I have two people playing a game.
Yeah.
Like Horizon, I spent $70. We've talked about this before.
Sure.
Now that game's just digitally collecting dust on my
Exactly.
dashboard. But,
Yeah.
and then just real briefly, I just checked out those new Mario Kart tracks.
Tell us about the Mario
So-
Kart tracks.
Yeah, not a lot to say. I mean, just to recap quickly, I think a couple months ago they had a brief direct, and they surprised everybody by announcing like a whole year's worth of new Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tracks. So I think the rumor was Nintendo was developing Mario Kart 9. Everybody was excited for that. Instead, it turns out they're just making more Mario Kart 8 tracks, which to me was fine. I
Yeah.
think that was just fine. So it's coming out in waves
Okay.
of cups. So they have 2 new cups right now, 4 tracks per cup, so there's 8 new tracks
Okay.
you can play right now. And you can either pay for it, or if you have the Nintendo Online subscription, you just get the tracks.
Sure.
So I think this is starting now through the end of 2023, I believe is how they're rolling them out.
Okay.
And they're good.
Yeah.
They're great. That game's, it turns out, is still great.
Yeah, that's a great, like one of maybe the best Mario Kart ever made. So having more of it is like,
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes sense to me personally. They have this online subscription. They have this ecosystem to put these tracks out, and the game still looks and controls amazing rather than making a whole new game. They're just
Yeah.
putting out new tracks. And so it's a mix of new tracks, remastered tracks from like Mario Kart 64, Double Dash, DS, Wii, and it's like Coconut Mall, which is one that everybody wanted on the
those
Wii.
cool. Yeah.
So they remaster Coconut Mall, and that's on one of the new cups. So.
Ironically, that's where Kirby and the Forgotten Land takes place, is the Coconut Mall.
Oh,
Abandoned-
seriously?
No, I'm just kidding. No, no.
Oh, okay, I was
In the
gonna
future,
s-
the Coconut
Yeah.
Mall has
The
fallen
Nintendo
into the apocalypse.
Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all tied together.
That's so funny.
That begs the question, Corey, who are you running in Mario Kart?
I run Link. Yep.
Dang.
Old
Okay,
school
that's a
green
bold
tunic.
choice.
Okay,
Yep.
if-
Master sword in the air.
If you
Yep.
if you couldn't run Link, who would you run? As far as Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Traditional character.
Traditional character. I love that Link's your answer, though. That's a great answer.
Yeah, and so Link was added when it was ported to the Switch with the
Okay.
new content when they created the deluxe version. I'm a classic guy. I like Mario.
Mario,
Yeah.
all-rounder.
I like Mario. Yep. he's
Okay.
yeah. How about you?
Okay, well, I feel like we're gonna have to ask you two, Anthony.
Oh, yeah.
Start thinking about it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Bowser boy.
Bowser.
Bowser,
Okay.
like the big guys.
Big boys.
Big
you know what I
boy.
mean? Get top speed and you're good
yeah.
to go.
Not baby Bowser.
Not
Like the
baby
big
Bowser.
Okay.
No, not baby Bowser. But it's been a while since I played Mario Kart.
Yeah. It's so good.
It's so good.
And,
right?
and the online is still kicking, man.
I'm
You get
not
into
surprised.
matches immediately. It's competitive. It's really fun.
Anthony, where do you land?
I'm a dry bones guy.
Oh,
Dry Bones is
okay.
great.
Love
Nice.
Dry
Yeah,
Bones.
Dry Bones is
Yeah.
good too.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember him on the Mario Kart DS. That was
Sure.
the first time I
Yeah.
saw Dry Bones. I'm like, whoa, Dry
Yep.
Bones is here. Like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wanted them to take like all the Diddy Kong characters.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that was like rare, and now rare
Diddy
is
Kong
good.
Racing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Diddy Kong so much.
Not to put us off on a tangent.
No, it's fine.
But a couple weeks ago, I had some friends over and we busted out the N64, and we busted out Diddy Kong Racing, which was one of my favorite games when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I had my N64 plugged into my giant 70-inch 4K.
Oh, I bet that looked
HG TV.
beautiful.
It looked like someone had like just thrown watercolor paints on my TV.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
Still a great game.
I love that
So
game.
much fun. not designed for that venue.
No. Oh, I've always wanted them to make a sequel because I always loved Diddy Kong, and I was like the weird like contrarian because all my friends were like Mario Kart at 64, and I'm like Diddy Kong, you can fly a plane. And I was like, that's incredible, and they have a campaign.
Yeah.
I always wanted a sequel, but then they never did it. The closest I got was like Nuts and Bolts.
You know what? We got a Pokemon Snap sequel,
That's
so
true.
never say never.
Dude, never say never.
Never
Come
say
on,
never,
man.
Jimmy.
Phil, are you watching? Phil's watching. Phil, let's make it happen. We can get Tip Top back.
Yeah.
We can get Banjo back in a cart.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. Well, I'm surprised too that we've got like Link, right? But there's some of these other characters like they're not going to bring, Solid Snake into Mario
Oh,
Kart.
sure.
Or like, is Bayonetta in the game?
No, there is no Bayonetta.
Not yet.
No. there's
Mario
no-
Kart 9, she'll be
Yeah,
there. She's
yeah.
like, why are we racing? I don't care.
Yeah,
It's like it's
yeah.
a cart made of her hair.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
No, I love that they're still supporting that game, but it's been a long time, so that's why it was surprising. Everybody was like, you've got to be making 9, right? Because why would you be doing anything else right now?
I would say it's at least 2-3 years out. I
Okay,
mean,
wow.
at this point, because if they're still rolling out tracks for Mario Kart 8, they're certainly not going to blend in a new Mario Kart entry while they're still pumping out tracks. So yeah, and this is through the end of 2023.
Sure.
So I would say at the earliest 2025.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It's
So-
also that's like consistently one of the best-selling Switch games.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if it's working,
Yeah,
why
totally.
put it somewhere
Why
else?
break it?
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that they're good. Do you play this? You said you play. Do you try the online? You said you can do the competitive matches?
Yeah, so I
Do you
did the
want to?
Grand Prix just to try the new tracks.
Okay.
Like, okay, these are fun. These look still great, still
Yeah.
good, And then now I just switched right back to online.
Okay.
Nice.
Does the wife have any love for Mario Kart? Does she co-op it with you?
Not really.
Okay.
No. She's still stuck in the Mario Kart 64 days. That's her favorite.
I love Double Dash where you just have like somebody sitting on the back and be like, all right, you're the item person, then we'll
Yeah.
switch. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're better on this course, and then you switch
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah.
Double Dash, what a weird game. I loved it so much.
good.
It's a good one.
GameCube, man.
Yep, it's really good.
Do you guys ever carry the GameCube around by the handle like they wanted
Of course.
you to?
Oh, yeah.
Walk it like a suitcase?
Yeah, of course.
Everywhere I went.
Bro, just sit with me, like put it there.
Yeah.
I don't have lunch today. I just have my GameCube. Press the button, opens up.
You
You're
flip it open, there's a peanut butter and
Yeah,
jelly
you're like-
sandwich in the disc slot.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like this big though.
Yeah, right. It's like
Okay.
a waffle maker.
Oh
you put
my
the food in
gosh.
there and it presses it
If
into
that
a
isn't
little.
if that isn't a thing yet, it totally should be.
Yeah,
Right.
Edit that out. That's
Yeah.
$1 million
Yeah,
idea.
right.
That and the PS2, the Slim Edition, that's got
Oh,
a little
yeah.
flat. That would work too. Oh
Right.
my goodness. Speaking of, not really PlayStation, I'm trying to find a good segue, but it's not going to work either way. I want to touch back in, Anthony, with you on a little game called Elden Ring, because we said we would, and we're men of our words. Because I want to see how far you've gotten, what's new, how's it shaking, how you feeling?
Elden Ring rules, man. Elden Ring's so good.
Yeah.
I was texting Corey the other day, and I think this might be my new favorite game of all time.
Oh, wow.
It's so freaking good.
Good,
It
glad you
is.
like it.
I'm 50 hours in now.
Nice.
Level 90. I don't know how far you guys have gotten. I'm running around the cat. Have either of you finished it?
I'm close.
I think I'm getting there,
Okay.
but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
So
I'm running around the capital right now.
Nice, yeah.
Okay.
Which, the crazy thing to me about that game is there's so much to do in it, but it's all good.
Yeah.
It's not with a lot of these open world games, especially like the Ubisoft style. There's just like a lot of filler, just like a lot of map
Yeah.
places you check off. And this game has like templated stuff. Like there are like a bunch of tunnels, a bunch of caves, a bunch of catacombs that are similar, but they're all so handcrafted that it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm doing another one of these. It's like exciting to discover it
Yep.
because you're like, what's going to be the twist in this one? What's
Sure.
going to be the trick? It's great.
it's a remarkable video game.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So, okay, what kind of character are you running?
I'm doing a faith build.
Okay.
Because I'm a scythe guy when I play the,
Oh, sure,
the
yeah.
From
Oh,
games. And I found this really sick scythe that was faith scale. I did just find a great sword that I really want to try out, so I've been upgrading that so I can get it to where I'm at.
Yep.
But yeah, doing a faith build. I just found Lionel's armor, which is the big
Yep.
yeah. So I've been
Oh.
rocking that.
Yeah. Is that the one with the big belly?
Yeah, the
I
big
have
belly.
that too, and the
Yeah.
big Raiden style hat.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
got that hat, yeah.
I'm not using
Yeah.
the hat because I don't know if you guys did the where you fight the big deer.
Yes.
In the-
Yep. And you
yeah.
got the antlers.
Yeah, so I got the antlers.
Yep,
So
there you go.
I'm rocking those. Just like a really whack look.
With
just
your angel wing
hodgepodge.
scythe.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I had a friend run that for a long time.
Yeah.
Mhm. There's a sword that you can get later on from one of the main bosses. I don't know if this is the great sword you're referring to, but that is faith-based and has a fissure fire attack. That's really strong.
Okay, I don't think that's the one I have.
So
I
once
got
you-
not to get like too like spoilery or like nerdy, but like the great sword I found is in the basement of the Divine Tower in Caelid.
Okay. Yep.
There's like a boss down there that you fight, and you get this great sword afterwards. So, yeah.
So for Lionel's armor, did you have to equip the talisman that greatly reduces your weight?
I have a talisman.
Are you fat rolling?
So I'm not fat rolling. I put
Okay.
a ton of points into endurance.
Okay.
And I also
Okay.
have. I don't think I have a talisman that reduces my weight, but it like upgrades my equip load, so like
Okay.
I can do more.
But that's what I meant.
Okay, yeah,
That same
yeah,
thing.
yes,
same
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Because
So-
that's kind of a must if you're equipping
Yeah,
that heavy
it's
armor.
a big one.
Okay.
I was actually surprised when I put it on because I was wearing Radahn's armor before that. And I found
Yeah,
Lionel's
same.
armor, and I was like, I'm just gonna put it on to see what it looks like, and it still had me in like medium load. So I
Oh.
was like, oh, I'm gonna rock this instead. So, yeah.
Yeah, you can actually get a better version of that talisman you're talking about later on. There's like a little arena area or coliseum with a giant individual there. I won't say who, but you have to fight like 3 NPCs in a row, and if you beat them all, he'll give it to you as like a good job. And it was like, oh, so that really helps with equip load. Because I'm like,
Okay.
so I want to rock that armor, but also I like to be fast.
Yeah. Oh, for
Like,
sure.
Not necessarily
Yeah.
the big bulbous thing, but the hat. I gotta have the hat. Like,
Right.
it looks too cool.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's like heavy armor. I'm like,
Yeah.
I love it.
One of my favorite things about this game is like what's happening right now,
Yeah.
where we're all just like had all these disparate experiences,
Yeah.
found this weird stuff, and it's like one of those games where like somebody could tell me anything about this game and I would believe it. Like
Yeah.
someone would be
Right.
like, if you go to the bottom of this place and you do this, you can find this extra sword, and I would be like, yeah, probably. Like I
Yeah.
totally believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like Volcano Manor. Oh, I'm sorry, Jim.
Oh, no, please. Tell me
Well,
about
like you mentioned, we were texting, and I said, make sure you hit the hidden wall in Volcano Manor because there's a whole back area dungeon that you could completely miss. Because minor spoilers here,
fine.
beware. But I mean, like just back to your point, the dialogue around this game is really incredible.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things you could completely miss if you're not looking into it.
Yeah.
So.
I'm excited for the sequel where they maybe will add a quest log. That's all I want. They don't have to tell me how to do things. I just want it to be like, you talked to this person, and
Sure.
here's a picture of them, and I'll be like, that's who they're talking about. Because they're always
Right.
like, did you talk to Ciliania?
Right.
She was down in the
Yeah.
darkest
Yeah.
part of the forest on
Yeah.
the moonlit night. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So
Yeah.
I'm like, please tell me. Yeah, but I think there's so much to love about this game. Also, I want climbing like Breath of the Wild. Then it'll be one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
I'll probably break the game though. I was like, I'm just gonna climb that mountain. I'm just gonna, my guy with this heavy armor is like, I can't. You
Do
know,
you actually want climbing in Elden Ring, though? See, I don't.
I just want climbing. In
I
every
don't
game.
feel the need to climb anything. It's weird.
I just hate the platforming because I hate how I
Really?
jump. Because it's like I can't. Like if I went up to this table here in Elden Ring and I tried to jump and I could, I'd be like, I can't.
Yeah.
I appreciate the platforming because another one of my favorite things about Elden Ring is it's like the funniest game ever.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah,
It's so freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
There was a part early in the game, which I'm sure you both encountered, but there's like this swampy area, and you see all these like NPCs on an island.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what's going on over there? And you walk onto the island, and the minute you step foot on the island, this dragon comes down and just wipes you out.
Right.
Then there's the part where you're just walking along the path, and you hear howling, and you're like, where is that? And these wolves just fall on top of you.
Right. Yep.
And I think the platforming is part of that. Like the platforming is another like joke that From Software is playing on you, where it's
Sure.
like, oh, you think you can make that jump?
Yeah,
Yeah, go for
yeah,
it. Go
yeah.
do it.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Like in that Divine Tower you're talking about, because you get that
Yeah.
fire greatsword.
Yeah.
The platforming is so bad, and it's like you have to land on this like spit of rock or whatever, and you're like, I can't. And then your character will like slide off. I'm like, what's happening? Why did I grease up my boots? Like,
Yeah.
but these are nitpicks in a game that is
Yeah.
very fun.
The
you know.
Divine Tower stuff is, I think, the exception. That's definitely some frustrating.
I've had a few times though in like
though.
catacombs where they're like you have to drop down all these things and
Yeah.
like land on the tops of like coffins and things, and I'm like stone tablets, and I slip just a little bit. I'm like,
Right.
no, like
Yeah.
you're killing me. Yeah, it's just so frustrating. It's like, and then but once you lose all your runes, you're like, what? I've got nothing left to lose.
It's almost like a weight. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like,
you're
"Hey."
so like precious with them. You're like, I can't die. I got all these runes, and then you die, and you're like, all right.
yeah, you're like I'll go fight a boss. Or you like see a boss and you're like, I have nothing.
Yeah.
I'll go check it out. You walk in, you're like, hi. But yeah, so you're still loving it, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
Good.
Until I fired up Tunic a couple days ago, is the only thing I was playing.
Okay.
It will continue to be the only thing I'm playing
Sweet.
until I finish it, and I don't even know what finishing it means because
Sure.
I'm like 50 hours in, and I don't think I'm close to the end.
No, probably not. Well, it depends on how much optional stuff you want to do.
Right,
too.
yeah.
Did you finish Horizon? I forget.
I did
okay.
finish Horizon.
Okay, you
yeah,
finished Horizon.
I wrapped Horizon. That I think I think I put in like 50 hours total on that one.
Okay, yeah.
I skipped a lot of the side stuff just because a lot of it felt very checklisty to me.
Sure.
And so like I did the stuff that I was interested in and skipped the stuff that I wasn't. Like
Yeah.
the hunting stuff never really interested in me.
Sure.
But I really like that game. I think the story goes some pretty wild places.
Sure.
And they definitely do like a big tease to the next game at the end.
Sure.
But I thought it wrapped up really well. I thought I really, really liked it. The only thing that pulled me away from it was Elden Ring.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and Corey, you're talking about this too, the Elden Ring being like the only game you're playing.
Yeah.
How much more have you put in since we talked last?
I think I'm like level 117. I think
Okay.
that's where I left off. I'm like 90 hours in. I'm in the mountaintops of the Giants.
Yeah.
I haven't looked into how much more I have left. I feel like every time I finish a large area or a big boss, like you mentioned, the capital, I try to do a sweep through the overworld again,
Sure.
just to see if anything I've missed. So yeah, that's kind of where I've left off.
I always love talking to you about this because you'll be like, how many hours have you put in? And I'll tell you, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, you put in this much?
Yeah,
And you're like, from
right.
game? I'm like, yeah,
Right.
I know. I can't believe it either.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of co-op, though, so a lot of it's been redundancies where I'm
Okay.
fighting the same boss multiple times or
Okay.
I'm running through an area with a friend again and again. Unfortunately, Joe, who I love, and he's never going to watch this, he knows too much. He's seen too
Okay.
many things, and he'll be
Yeah.
like, there's a really cool thing coming up soon. I'll be like, do you want to be surprised about anything? Because I would love to be
Right.
surprised about something.
Yeah, exactly.
So once in a while, he gets surprised by a thing, and I'm like, okay, there we go.
Sure.
But it's been fun just because like that's been a game that we've just been for a
Yeah.
long time just playing together. And it was just
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm over here, summon me, and then we have to deal with invaders,
yeah.
which can either be really fun or very frustrating.
Right.
So because those people who invade all the time are usually really good, but once in a while, we've had people who inadvertently roll off a cliff and die.
That's so
and you're
funny.
like, bye.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah.
So
you made your
yeah.
bed.
Made your bed.
Yeah.
You came in here. You came
Yeah.
for me. I've tried doing it, and I felt bad because I'm not necessarily good, but I can like. Then there's like disconnects where people run into a boss room, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh well, they're gone. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just like sneaking around. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a great game.
Yeah.
So
it's
did you?
wonderful.
I'm sorry. Did you say you finished it?
No,
No.
I'm close. I think I'm doing like there was only a certain amount of certain bosses you have to kill to go for the finale or whatever. But we're going for like all of them.
Yeah.
So we were hunting down a few more of these other individuals. I'm pretty sure we're ready for the end or to new game
Okay.
plus. But I think once they give me that option, I might just be like, I'll come back in like a year.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
We should do a PSA because I found this out because one of my friends did finish the game.
Oh, yeah.
In most From Software games, as soon as you finish the final boss, they dump you into New Game Plus.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't you can't go back and do other stuff. That is not the case in Elden Ring.
Oh, good
you
to
can
know.
like run around the overworld and
Nice.
sweep up all the stuff you haven't done yet,
good
and
to
then New
know.
Game Plus will be waiting for you when you want to fire it up.
Yeah, because this might be one of the only few games that I kind of want to trophy hunt a little bit.
Sure.
Because I think that'll add just kind of content to your experience. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't get this trophy. Let's try and go back and do that.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and speaking about rumors earlier, like with Mario Kart before, we're like, oh, they're making 9. There's actually DLC.
Right.
There's a big DLC apparently on its way for this game.
Good. I believe
that's-
it.
It's kind of reminds me of how Monster Hunter did it, where they had this really big launch and they had all this other stuff that they wanted to come back to.
Yeah.
And like a year later, I don't think it's going to take a full year though. So I wonder if a lot of this stuff was like, all right, well, we don't have it at launch, but we're going to work on it really hard, and then we're going to come out with it 6 months later, or 9 months later, whatever it might be.
Good.
That's coming, I believe.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting to see too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
I wonder if it'll just be new land masses and like connected to the world or something.
Right?
Yeah.
And the thing about this game is that there's so many people who love it and have gotten so much out of like it, money's worth wise, that I think so many people will buy in
Yeah.
right away without thinking. They'll just be like,
Right.
yeah, I'll buy it.
And it's crazy, like the success this game has seen.
Oh, yeah.
Because like From Software games are always kind of a niche thing.
Yeah.
A couple of them have sold well. But like this game is like the best-selling game of the year so far, which is wild in a year that has like Horizon and
Yeah.
like all these other big releases. That the like open world FromSoft hyper difficult is the one that people have latched onto, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's really great for From that they have their big hit now. And
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just so much more accessible, right?
Yeah.
If you're not beating your head against the wall this time, you're just like, I don't want to deal with this boss. You're like,
Yeah.
see ya. Or you're like out on your horse and you're like, I don't want to fight this boss, or I'm going to fight it and cheese it. I'm going to do things to it from a distance.
Right.
and I'll come
yeah,
back
it's
to
so
it.
much easier with first off with the fast travel, the Sites of Grace. Like it's so much easier to just
Oh,
dip
yeah.
out and go do something else. And then the like, especially having Torrent, the like everyone keeps calling it a horse.
Yeah.
Gorse.
It's a
Goat
goat
horse.
horse.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so easy to just like, okay, I'm just gonna go around these people. I'm
Yep.
not gonna fight.
I
These,
love doing it.
Yeah.
Greatest video game horse.
The controls.
far.
It
Yeah.
controls so
I mean,
well.
just the double jump alone
Yeah.
is.
I would say that, but sometimes on the platforming with Torrent, it gets a little rough. I have a problem with this. I'm sure they're watching. They're
Yeah,
gonna take
yeah.
all of this into account. They'll be like,
Miyazaki is.
Miyazaki, he's
Right.
like writing it down furiously. He's like, of course, Jimmy. I text him all the time, but Miyazaki, I mean, come on, text me, dude. I wanted to bring up a few other things before we wrap up today, but final thoughts on Elden Ring for now.
It rules. Like,
Okay.
it's one of those games where, like, first off, I had high hopes for this game, and it met and exceeded them.
Okay.
And like I said, like, I genuinely think this will go down as either one or two on my list of favorite video games ever made. So I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, and coming out early in the year too. I think we'll be talking about this a lot at the end of the year. What do you think, Corey?
Same.
Yeah.
I'll just make it short.
Exactly.
I agree with Anthony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of
Same.
course.
yeah.
But the missus is not playing Elden Ring.
She started it.
Really?
It's not for her.
Okay, fair enough. I understand.
You encounter that first night on the horse right by that first church.
Oh, the tree
and he'll
sentinel.
just- yep.
Yeah, no thanks. Yep, and later on there's like two of them, and you're like, oh, good.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're like, great. That's
Yeah.
just how
Yeah.
these games are like. Remember this thing? Now there's two.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same way, and I'm not a From game guy. So what does that say?
Yep.
Well done, From.
It's a remarkable video game.
It is a remarkable video game. You guys did a great job, and hopefully the sales numbers reflect that. Even though, talking about Lego Star Wars, I heard, and I don't know if this is still true, but Lego Star Wars had outsold in the United Kingdom over Elden Ring recently in just like the first little bit that had come out. But Lego is such a massive
And Star Wars.
appeal game. Yeah. with
Well,
Star
and
Wars.
Lego's on, every platform.
Everything.
It's on the Switch.
It's on my
Yeah.
phone. And I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's on a calculator. You're like, it still works.
It's on the play date.
Yeah.
You're like, this is still working. Great.
Yeah.
So I have two little things I want to bring up, both Game Pass stuff.
Okay.
I want to talk about a smaller one first that I started to delve into, but it's only something I tried out because I saw it on Game Pass, and it's called Skull, the Hero Slayer.
Okay.
SKUL. And it's 16-bit. It's roguelite.
Cool.
And the whole conceit of the game is you're a little skeleton man, and you have to go save the demon lord from all these heroes. And you have to go through, and like when you die, you start over, kind of thing. So, but you progress in power, but also you get different skulls of things to put on, and you get a completely different moveset.
Cool.
So you can put on like a werewolf skull, or one of my favorites is a dark paladin skull, and then you get like these different magic attacks, and you have to like fight your way through these little levels. And I was like, this is a really charming, fun game that looks like it's not that intense. And I looked into it, and it was like, if you want to beat this thing, it's like 24 hours. I'm like, oh my god!
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Holy crap.
But it's a really fun, really intense, but it's a difficult game. So a lot of the roguelites start kind of easy and then kind of ramp up. This at the beginning seems pretty tough. So again, it's on Game Pass, so if you want to check it out, I thought it was just really fun. I wanted to bring it up because it was so interesting because you can have two of these skulls at the same time, so you can switch between them. And when you switch, you'll do like a move into that new character. So you can kind of mix things in and different abilities to like kind of clear an area.
We're talking like a
quickly.
Dead Cells style,
Kind of like Dead Cells.
2D side scrolling.
Yes.
Slash, okay,
Yep.
cool.
Very much
cool.
so. Very much so.
Cool.
And I loved Dead Cells. I never
Yeah.
beat Dead Cells.
Me neither.
I,
Me either.
I
No-
liked
nobody
it a lot.
beat it.
I was like,
Fact.
Oh,
Nobody
yeah, I was
beat
gonna-
it.
no, I got close, and then I was like, oh man, I love you, but I gotta stop.
Yeah.
But it's
It's like Rogue Legacy. Nobody's beating it.
right, exactly. Yeah, nobody has. But yeah, I would recommend if you like roguelites, 2D kind of action platformer types, to check it out because it's a fun little game.
Cool. And that's on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's a great. I was like, what is this? I'm like, I'll try it out because I saw they got me on the trailer, guys. Like I saw this trailer and I was like, oh, that character looks really cool. Or they had
Yeah.
like this arch lich, and I actually got this for a while, and he's very similar to like Kel'Thuzad for any Warcraft fans out there. So he's got like these chains and all these like abilities to like attack from a distance. I'm like, oh, but then he can switch into a werewolf, or something like that. It's like,
Cool.
man, this is a weird game. I
Yeah.
really like it, and I want to see games like that do well, so that way they make a sequel that's 3D.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
It's like Hades. Like if they ever made another Hades, I'd want it to be like third person.
Right.
Like they would never do it, but maybe, who knows? And the other game, something I went back to, a guilty pleasure of mine back in 2005. It's a little game called Destroy All Humans.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yes, so that came out on Game Pass a little while ago. It came out in 2020, but then they put it on Game Pass in 2021.
Really?
You
Is it like a remastered?
it's a remaster, yes,
Got it.
and they have a sequel
cool.
that's in the works, but
Right.
you play as Crypto, who is like a 3-foot-tall alien who embodies the personality, basically, of Jack Nicholson. So he sounds like Jack Nicholson, and
Nice.
he's an alien, and he's
Yeah.
got to destroy all the humans. So you play as this guy, and you go around, and you're basically trying to learn from all the genetic code of humans by like taking them out and collecting their brains or whatever else, but then also fighting humanity as a whole. And it is just a fun, straight up guilty pleasure to play as Crypto and run around with like your little like lightning gun or your little disintegrator beam, and then you can just hop into your spaceship on certain levels and just go straight Independence Day and just like look straight down and just blowing stuff up. It is entirely just jokey and a complete farce of a game, but it is really fun to play, and it looks really, really good.
Really?
That's what's amazing about it. The only times I had frame rate issues was like when I was blowing up entire buildings, and then the game would kind of stutter and slow down from the explosions.
Sure.
And I was like, yeah, I know I'm asking a lot right now.
Is this like is it like a full-on remake, or is it just like an HD polish? Or?
It's an HD polish, from what I understand.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
The
because
PS2 game, right?
yeah,
PS2?
and like
Yeah.
2000, like I said, 5, I believe.
Sure.
So I was trying to think. I was 15 at the time. This is like
Yeah.
a perfect like 15-year-old game.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, Destroy All Humans. I'm like, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to go back to it because like I said, it looks all really nice, but it's the same weird missions and same jokes and all this stuff. And they have, and I don't remember this being in the original. I'm sure it is, but there are like certain levels where you have to like convince people to believe you because you like take on the disguise of a human. So there's like little crowd meters that you can say horrible things, like the crowd will kind of go against you, but you have to try to win them back. So like they have little things to break up the gameplay. They'll have stealth gameplay where you're trying to like sneak into a facility, but then once in a while they'll be like, all right, the jig is up, start attacking everybody. And you're like, oh, yes. And they have like a pretty robust skill tree. So eventually at the end of the game, you do feel like almost unstoppable. You're like, okay, cool. And it also has like telekinesis, so you got a little force unleashed in there. So you like start picking things up later on, like tanks and things. You're like, oh, I can pick you up now. And you're like, bye.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, see ya. It is such a guilty pleasure, but I highly recommend if you want something completely jokey, to check that game out because it's a lot of fun.
And that's on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass, man.
perfect. There you go.
It's so like I don't know what it is, man. Like there's some things on there I'm like I wouldn't have bought this.
Well, of course
but I'm
not,
like,
yeah.
I'll check it out for old time's sake.
Right.
Like Guardians. No offense to Guardians.
Oh, yeah.
But I know we talked about that a bunch.
Yeah.
I know that's on Game Pass now, and I was
Right.
like, maybe I will check it out.
Yeah.
Just for
It's worth checking
that,
out,
right?
yeah.
It's like these big polished games are coming on there, or smaller games like Skull. And I'm like, oh, I would have never looked into this, but
Right.
it's on there. So like, I'm not trying to sell you on Game Pass. It's just that I had this opportunity, and I was like trying to take a break from Elden Ring long enough where I wasn't losing my mind. Like,
Yeah. We
'cause
find out Jimmy's in the sales department at Microsoft
He's
Game
on
Pass.
the
yeah,
payroll.
Yeah.
Phil's watching right
He's
now. and
moving
he's
to
like,
Seattle.
he's like, it's time to move some
Right.
of these.
gonna-
Got a pocket full of
units."
like the trial cards.
Right.
Like, do you want to just like it's just like a 1 month?
Yeah.
It's 1 month down, but then you get it for 16 months. You have to
Yeah,
pay.
yeah. You got a company Tesla they gave you, and a company car. You're moving to
Great.
Seattle.
It's super good.
Drink
yeah.
your Starbucks.
Exactly. I just am so concerned or interested to see what they do with like one of my beloved franchises, Gears of War. If that's going to go free to play multiplayer, but then like campaign will be on Game Pass, kind of
Right.
thing, because I'm just waiting to see my next Gears game because it's been a while.
Right.
I love
I'm not to go off on a tangent on the PlayStation Plus versus the
Sure.
Game Pass
No.
battle.
Please.
People are like, oh, well, Sony doesn't have the money that Microsoft has. I'm like, well, they just spent billions of dollars acquiring Bungie.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Kind of acquiring Bungie,
Kind of.
but not like.
I'm not sympathetic to that argument.
Sure, yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
If they're launching a service to compete with Microsoft Game Pass, well, then I want the new God of War for free on
Yeah.
day one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Because
Exactly.
Sony's bread and butter is those big first-party releases,
yeah.
and they make a lot of money on people spending $60, $70 on those games.
Yep.
And so, but they see they're looking over at Microsoft and they're saying, well, they're getting all this money from Game
Right.
Pass, and so they're just trying to kind of like go halfway. And I'll be curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, me too. And they, who's the CEO of Sony? Is it Jim Ryan? Jim Ryan. He's like,
Yeah.
oh well, we believe in the value of selling first party. It's like, just stop. You just they just invested another $1 billion and stop me
Yeah.
because I'm gonna go off the rails.
That's good.
They
Typical Microsoft fanboy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
God.
it's frustrating when I look at what Microsoft is offering
Yeah.
on the Game Pass, and I look at what Sony has right now, and it's SpongeBob SquarePants Bikini
Sure,
Bottom.
yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Anyways, we'll have to circle back with another
Yeah.
show. I'm assuming since E3's been canceled, they'll have an event and
Summer Game Fest is still going
Summer
on.
Game Fest,
Yeah.
and you think that's where they'll blow the doors
We'll
off the new
see.
service?
Yeah, I'm curious to see that kind of thing, but that'll be like the one big thing that Jeff shows for the day. Or at least that's how he's done in the past, where it's like it's over 90 days and he does like one big thing a day. So it's like you have to
Right.
wait for a week to be like, all right, here's the stockpiled information.
Right.
But yeah, we'll have to circle back to that next time. But believe it or not, gentlemen, that's all the time we have for today. I would love to keep going and going, but apparently they'll pull the plug on us here at QCTV. We can't
Yes,
just turn
they
it into
will.
a whole gaming show or gaming network.
Chase us out with a broom.
Exactly. But Anthony, thank you for dropping back by again. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
Yeah. And Corey, as always, a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
And finally, the last, individuals who are here. We've got the people behind the scenes. You guys are fantastic. Thank
Thank
you
you,
guys so
Leslie and
much.
Billy.
Leslie and Billy, thank you so much. You're wonderful. And to you, our dear viewers at home, thank you. We appreciate you hanging out with us. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.